Good day, class, and welcome to my video lesson. Our topic for today is about cultural ethics, wherein we will discuss the different definitions of ethics and its relevance to values and morality. Also in this topic, we will encounter subtopics such as branches of ethics, culture and ethics, effects of culture, cultural conflict, code of cultural ethics, and some of the strange cultural practices that still exist up to this date. To begin with, let's start with the first definition of ethics, which is a code of behavior that a society considers moral and appropriate for guiding relationship with one another. From that definition, it refers to our manner of interaction with others, which basically address the context of Golden Principle, which states that do unto others what you want others do unto you. In the context of reciprocity, we tend to bestow good actions for others for us to gain the same result. Ethics deals with things to be sought and things to be avoided in ways of life and with telos. Telos means the chief aim or end in life. In relation with this, we are dealing on good actions and eventually avoiding the negative ones, for we are expecting something to achieve in afterlife. For Christian beliefs, doing good things ends up us in heaven, while the consequence of doing bad things ends up us to hell. Ethics are standards of right and wrong, good and bad. Ethics are concerned with what one ought to do to fulfill one's moral duty. Ethics, therefore, is referred to us as the guiding principle that mandates right and wrong, or good and bad. Right does not mean doing all the good things, and vice versa. For example, giving an aid for all those persons who ask for your help is a good thing to do, but it is not right, in the sense that we are teaching them to depend on us, and not on their ability to work for their own. There are two aspects to ethics. First is being able to determine what is right or wrong, or good or bad. And the second one is our commitment for doing what is right and good. The first aspect refers to our ability to determine what is right and wrong, or what is good or bad, which resembles to our moral actions as mandated by the norms of society, while the second one refers to the consistency of doing such actions. Ethics are also a subset of values. The definition of values applies to things that are desired as well as what one ought to do, and can include such concepts as wealth, happiness, success, and fulfillment. Dreams that we aim or goals that we are targeting for, the reason why we push ourselves to finish our studies generally contemplates the four concepts such as wealth, happiness, success, and fulfillment. Wealth, which does not refer to a luxurious life, but only for sustaining the needs of our family and enough to help someone in need. Happiness for the concept of achieving our dreams, success for the realization of our goals, and fulfillment that we have reached our destiny. Contentment is the basic policy of reaching every goal, for having lack of it will lead us to do unnecessary things that can ruin our identity and integrity as an individual. Ethics define how a moral person should behave. Values include other beliefs and attitudes that guide behavior. Generally, ethics refers to the standards of action everyone should manifest in his or her community. It includes the social norms that is acceptable by the society wherein you are living, which lead to the judgment of your personality and integrity. Now let's move on to the different branches of ethics. First is the meta-ethics, which deals with the meaning of truth values in theory and refers to moral propositions. Meta-ethics is the study of moral thought and moral language, rather than addressing questions about what practices are right and wrong, and what our obligations to other people or future generations are. Questions of so-called normative ethics. Metaethics asks what morality actually is. Next is normative ethics, which deals with the practicality of actions and it examines standards for the rightness and wrongness of actions. Normative ethics involves arriving at moral standards that regulate right and wrong conduct. The Golden Rule is a classic example of a normative principle. We should do to others what we would want others to do to us. Since I do not want my neighbor to steal my car, then it is wrong for me to steal one's own car. Another one is applied ethics, which refers to moral and ethical outcomes that can be achieved in particular situations. Applied ethics is a branch of ethics devoted to the treatment of moral problems, practices, and policies in personal life, professions, technology, and government. Philosophers who study applied ethics look to the world around them and analyze the ethical problems they found. By doing so, the applied ethicist is able to use philosophy as a tool to address important moral issues in various practical disciplines. Then we have moral psychology, which deals with the development and nature of moral capacity. Moral psychology encompasses the investigation of the psychological presuppositions of normative ethical theories, including those regarding freedom of will and determinism, and the possibility of altruism, or its alternative. Psychological egoism, which means the notion that humans are ultimately motivated only by perceived self-interest. And the last for the branches of ethics is the descriptive ethics, which is the moral values that most people follow and stand by. Descriptive ethics is a form of empirical research into the attitudes of individuals or groups of people. Those working on descriptive ethics aim to uncover people's beliefs about such things as values, which actions are right and wrong, and which characteristics of moral agents are virtues. Now let's move on to culture and ethics. Cooperation is easier and conflicts are limited when people share convictions. A conviction is something certain. A judgment of guilty in court and a strong belief are both convictions. In the legal world, when a judge or jury convicts someone of a crime, finding them guilty, this is called a conviction. When you have a conviction, you're certain of something. We therefore need to look for ethical principles that are shared worldwide. There are many other moral values and ethical standards which are shared by all faiths and belief systems, like the respect of human rights. For example, every human being must be treated humanely, love and compassion, justice, caring and sharing, environment protection, honesty, integrity, accountability, moderation, etc. Standards and values are an integral part of any culture. Hence, culture is the bedrock supporting every development. Values are the bedrock of culture. Values are what drive and motivates us. Our values have always included collaboration, trust, and participation. Increasingly important are diversity and transparency. Culture can obstruct progress, but it can nevertheless be a tool for emancipation. Other societies hinder technological development for the purpose of preserving their own cultural identity. An example of this are some societies in the Cordillera region, wherein they did not allow using advanced technology in tilling their own fields, for it hampers their cultural identity. Culture is also a goal in itself. It gives meaning to our existence. Our culture shapes the way we work and play, and it makes a difference in how we view ourselves and others. It affects our values, what we consider right and wrong. This is how the society we live influence our choices. But our choices can also influence others and ultimately help shape our society. The same holds true for equal rights, responsibility for future generations, freedom of speech, and democracy. They stimulate progress but are also the objective of development. Now let's move on to effects of culture. First, determines how people communicate. Next, determines how people interact. Then, determines how people relate to one another. Another effect of culture is it guides day-to-day working relationships. It determines what is appropriate behavior. And it determines how power and status are allocated. Now let's move on to the cultural conflict. Different cultures have different rules of conduct. For the customs or traditions of a particular society can be ethical to one and unethical for the other. For example, the practice of having more than one wives or husbands. Some cultures view certain ethical practices with different levels of condemnation. Respecting differences is a crucial ethical practice. Research shows that management ethics differ among cultures. Respecting those differences means recognizing that some cultures have obvious weaknesses as well as hidden strengths. The more serious problem concerns two different ethical standards meeting in a business transactions. Business ethics enhances the law by outlining acceptable behaviors beyond government control. Corporations establish business ethics to promote integrity among their employees and gain trust from their key stakeholders such as investors and consumers, while corporate ethics programs have become common while the quality varies. A lack of ethics has a negative effect on employee performance. Additionally, employees who feel acting ethically and following the rules will not get them ahead in the business sometimes feel a lack of motivation, which often leads to a decrease in performance. Cultural ethics is usually differs from culture. For cultural ethics, as the name to culture, despite that, suggests deals with a certain values remain the same morality, integrity, principles, simply because they are and values of a culture, and in ethically and morally some case, even religion, justifiable. Cultural ethics culture is an integral part of cultural ethics, reflect the ethics and vice versa. The values and morals of a society culture, of a community, impact and therefore it plays a vital in progress development, laws, role in the governance of the principles and to some extent society and its policies. Let us now proceed to the code of cultural ethics. First, there should be a process of actively developing and practicing appropriate, relevant, and sensitive strategies and skills in interacting with culturally different persons. Second, there should be a set of congruent behaviors, attitudes, and policies that come together in a system, agency, or among professionals and enables that system, agency, or those professionals to work effectively in cross-cultural situations. Then last, there should be an integration and transformation of knowledge about individuals and groups of people into specific standards, policies, practices, and attitudes used in appropriate cultural settings to increase the quality of services, thereby producing better outcomes. Here now are some of the strange cultural practices that still exist to this date. despite of the modern sense of living, technological advancement, and international code of human rights and social justice. Do not use red ink in South Korea. If you find yourself in the bustling cities or in the calm countrysides of South Korea, avoid using red ink. Historically, in Korean culture, red ink was only used to note the names of the dead on the family register. If the name of a living person was written in red ink, it was considered a sign that the person who wrote the name wished harm upon the other. Now, using red ink is a huge no throughout the country, especially to write down a name. It's considered rude and a sign of a ill will against the person whose name is noted, so it's best to simply avoid the color altogether. Throwing of broken dishes in Denmark. Looking for a way to bring a good luck. The Danes sure have a unique way of doing so. During the year, people in Denmark save any broken dishes, plates, cups or bowls until New Year's Eve. On the New Year, they throw the broken dishware at the homes of friends and family as a way to wish them good luck for the new year. A less aggressive way to wish good luck is to simply leave a pile of broken plates on the doorstep of a loved one. The tradition dates back centuries and is one of the more unique ways to ring in the new year. Don't ask for salt when at a host place in Egypt. Looks like Egyptians get offended easily, so if you are invited over for dinner and want to add more salt to your dish, dare not touch the salt shaker because Egyptians feel it is equivalent to insulting the host. Don't show up on time in Venezuela. Looks like Venezuelans are just like Indians. Reaching on time is considered rude in Venezuela, and it is recommended to reach at least 15 minutes later than the scheduled time. Guests who reach on time are looked down upon as being too eager and greedy. Break the dishes and get the newlyweds to clean the mess in Germany. In this weird pre-wedding German tradition, friends and family of the bride and groom come together and break dishes, and then the bride and groom had to clean up the mess. This way, they get to practice working together in difficult times. Bathroom ban after marriage in Indonesia. Newly married couples of the Tidong community in Indonesia are prohibited from using the washroom for 3 days after their marriage. Breaking the rules of the observation will bring bad luck in their married life, like stillbirth and death. Relatives of the couple supervise them over the 3 days after which they are bathed and may answer their calls of nature. Bullet ant gloves of the Satere-Mawe tribe in Brazil. When the boys of this Amazonian tribe come of age, they must prove their manhood in a tradition that's torturous and terrifying. The young men trap bullet ants, which are then drugged by a medicine man who places the deadly creatures in a woven mitts. It is said that sting of a bullet ant can be compared to a bullet hitting the flesh. The young men then have to wear the mitts on their hands and dance for 10 minutes to take their mind off the pain. Satere-Mawe men have to go through this ritual at least 20 times in their lifetime. Thaipusam Festival in India. Celebrated by Hindus in southern India and Southeast Asia, the festival of Thaipusam observes the victory of Lord Murugan over an evil spirit. Devotees pierce themselves with sharp objects through different parts of their bodies while going into a complete trance. Some even go as far as pulling vehicles with hooks pierced into their backs. Consuming the dead in Brazil and Venezuela. The Yanomami tribe who reside in the Amazon rainforest bordering Venezuela and Brazil are repelled by the idea of burying the dead. They believe that no physical trace of the body should be left in order to allow the spirit to rest in peace. The ash and bone powder obtained after cremation is mixed into a plantain soup, which is consumed by the deceased family. By doing this, the Yanomami believe the soul of their lost and loved one will reside within them. The custom of Pamadihana in Madagascar. Death is a time of sorrow and silence, even if it means visiting the grave of a loved one who passed away years ago, not in the Haute Plateau of Madagascar, because July and September witnesses the custom of Pamadihana, the turning of the dead, involves exhuming the remains of deceased relatives and rewrapping their bones in fresh cloth. The toddler tossing in India. In some parts of Gujarat, Maharashtra, and Karnataka, toddlers are tossed from the roof of temples 15 to 30 feet above the ground and are caught by a blanket held out by devotees. This practice is age-old and is said to bring good luck to the child. It is a traumatic ordeal for the toddler, and the child rights activists managed to ban it in 2011. However, devotees continued to practice it in 2012. Carrying pregnant wife over burning coal in China. In China, it is believed that if the husband carries his pregnant wife over burning coal with bare feet, the wife has an easy delivery, so physical pain for the husband to ease out the wife's labor. Bride kidnapping by the Romani gypsies. In a particularly disturbing custom followed by Roman gypsies, kidnapping a girl you like is very much legal. If that wasn't weird enough, kidnapping also means that you have won her and have the right to marry her, provided that you are able to keep her as a hostage for 3 to 5 days. Night hunting in Bhutan. Known as Bumena, in eastern parts of the Himalayan kingdom, young men looking for love and marriage set out at night for a different kind of hunt. They break into the rooms of eligible spinsters and spend the night there. If caught, they have to marry the girl or work in her father's fields as a punishment. This tradition is much debated today, as women are subjected to rape and an invasion of privacy. Stealing each other's wives in Niger. In the Wudabi tribe of Niger in West Africa, men are known to steal each other's wives. The Wudabis' first marriage is arranged by their parents in infancy and must be between cousins of the same line age. However, at the yearly Giriwol festival, Wudabi men wear elaborate makeup and costumes and dance to impress the women and hopefully steal a new wife. If a man is able to steal away undetected, especially from a current husband who may not want to be part with his wife, then they become socially recognized. And that's all for our topic, cultural ethics. Thank you very much for listening, and goodbye.